Welcome to the Victories Show.
Hey, Victors. Welcome to this episode of the Victories Show. If this is your first time joining us, I'm Travis Cote, author of 16 books and creator of Bestseller by Design. I've had the privilege of helping hundreds of business consultants, founders, and entrepreneurs write and publish their own best-selling books as well. And along that journey, discovered a really fascinating pattern. A lot of businesses hit a revenue plateau, usually around $1 million, and they struggle to break through it. So on this show, we sit down with some of the world's most successful founders, CEOs, leaders, and business owners to uncover the strategies they use to overcome those plateaus so they could scale their businesses to heights. And we want you to do the same thing. So get ready for some deep insights and actionable takeaways so that you can implement in your life and business starting now. My guest today is Tom Rauen. He's the founder and CEO of 1-800 T-shirts and Envision, which is an Inc. 5000 custom screen printing and embroidery company known for its innovation and impact. He's also the owner of Rauen Capital, a private equity firm investing in commercial real estate and small to mid-sized businesses, helping build long-term value through smart strategic growth. Tom's work blends entrepreneurship, marketing, and a deep passion for community, proving that business success and social impact don't have to be separate goals. So, Tom, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Hey, glad to be on.
All right, so I gotta say, this is probably the most unique business that I've had conversations with so far. So I'm sure you get this question all the time, but where did the idea for 1-800 T-shirts, where did that start?
Yeah, it started actually in high school. So I was looking for something unique. So our high school basketball team was undefeated. They were going to the state
Oh,
playoffs.
wow.
This was like just after the Chicago Bulls had like all their big, success with championships, Michael Jordan and everything else. And the athletic director at our high school had ordered T-shirts for the school, to cheer the team on. And it was a white T-shirt with just black ink and like a varsity font, like very basic type thing that just said like state basketball or something. And I'm like, we need to have a shirt like the Chicago Bulls that has like, the mascot on it and players and all just really cool graphics on it and multiple colors and everything else. So I went to this t-shirt company close by, gave the designer kind of my vision of what I had in mind, and he designed this amazing shirt. And so me and a bunch of friends just started selling them throughout the high school
Nice.
and all over the place. And we were selling literally thousands of shirts all over the community because the design was just so amazing. And of course, everyone was wanting to back and show their support for the basketball team. So that was my first kind of t-shirt project. And then the rest of my high school and all throughout college, I was coming up with different designs, selling them in dorms, going tailgating at football games and just other areas around the community where it was just one-off designs. And that was, paying for basically college at the time. So when I
Wow.
graduated, I had an idea of this. I was bartending at the time. I got to know a lot of other bar and restaurant owners, a lot of business owners through bartending. And I was like, all right, well, I know how to design shirts. Now I just have to learn how to print them. And I've already got, some relationships built to, have customers right off the start.
Wow. So it's interesting. It's this thing you're like, this shirt's boring. Let me start a thing. And then suddenly you're like, oh, I just made a whole bunch of money doing this thing that I thought was just like showing school support. Was that a little bit of a like, did that cause you to stop and go, how did I just make a bunch of money with this little thing that was just kind of a silly thing? Or did you go, that was pretty cool?
Yeah, I mean, it was like I've always kind of had that entrepreneur mindset, as a kid, whether it was a lemonade stand, typical selling baseball cards, and then throughout grade school, I hit the Beanie Baby craze, and I was selling
Nice.
Beanie Babies on online forums.
All
This
right.
was pre
I got to stop you right there. What was your biggest ROI on a Beanie Baby?
Oh man, I think the highest one we sold might have been $750.
Do you remember which
Uh,
one it was?
Vasco the Bull. So that was a big one. The bears, there was a Peace Bear, there was a Princess Diana bear. I remember all the bears were like, because we're buying these things for $2.50 each. And, they were selling the popular ones. $75, $100, $150.
You were
So the
doing Beanie
margin
Baby
was,
arbitrage.
yeah, I mean, the margin was crazy during that, that it was, I think it was like a 2 year kind of craze about it. And that was pre-eBay days. So,
Yeah.
I was in online forums. I was probably like sixth grade, and I had to wait as I sold these. I had to wait for people to send a check or money order in the mail. And so I'd go to the mailbox. I'd have a whole stack of envelopes. I have to go through, match their money order up with, what we
The
agreed
orders.
upon on the forum, and then ship out. So like my parents' living room was our shipping, my shipping center.
Right.
And then after the Beanie Baby craze got over, my mom owned a hair salon and eBay had just started. And so I was like, all right, what's next? And, I saw she had this product and I was like, well, maybe I could sell shampoo on eBay, which looking back seems like the craziest thing in the world. Back in this would have been like 1996. It was like one of the very first eBay accounts. And I was selling shampoo to people in New York and California and all over the country. And like my mom couldn't figure it out. The wholesale place that we were getting shampoo from, because I was getting like by the pallet, they were confused as well. They're like, why, how are you selling so much and why are people buying it everywhere and buying it for more than retail price a lot of cases? And what we realized was like, this was pre-Amazon. It was the convenience factor. It
Yeah.
was, people were going on eBay and ordering this because it was shipped directly to their door and they wanted that convenience instead of, going to the salon or wherever else, to get it. So, after that, continue to do that, and then look for other items to arbitrage on eBay as well. I'd go to Walmart, basically take pictures of toys, whatever the hot toys were for the season. I'd list them, and I wouldn't buy the actual stuff until it's sold. So I would list it, sell it. After I sold, I'd go to Walmart, actually buy the item, and then ship it out. So that was all throughout kind of high school and college. So I always had this entrepreneur sense. So once I graduated college, like I knew I always want to do business for myself. And it's like, well, eBay thing is probably like, I'm outgrowing that at this point. Need to start a real business. And so that's where t-shirts was the main one I stuck with then.
So you're doing bartending and like what was your angle for the t-shirts as you're coming out of bartending? Did you start doing kind of like customized merch for stores or what did that look like?
It was mainly uniforms for, so, other bars and restaurants. I knew
Uh-huh.
they needed either, shirts to wear for their staff or shirts that they could, shirts or hats they could hang up and sell to, customers that are coming in. And so that was kind of the first one. And then other small businesses, whether it's like a grass cutting company or plumber or electrician or something like that. So a lot of different trades and stuff. And then it was just friends and family and, it's birthday party t-shirts and you name it. It was kind of bachelorette parties, bachelor parties, whatever people needed stuff on. And then we did a lot of sports stuff for high schools and colleges. So we're doing little league baseball teams, high school teams, college teams, all the clubs at the schools. And being just out of college, I was real familiar with that, area. So I could call up a fraternity or sorority or any of the clubs at a college and really be on the same playing field since I was 22. It's different now that I'm in my 40s, me trying to call and like have a conversation with a kid in college, like we're not talking the same language right now. So my early 20s, that was real simple to pick up those types of accounts.
Well, and it sounds like you had an eye for design too, right? So you're coming in and you probably was at the time the people trying to sell them were 40-year-olds and you're the 22-year-old. I'm like, no, 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 we don't want a white t-shirt with black font. Let me show you four color, this and that. And they're like, oh my
Yeah.
God, this is unlike anything people are showing us.
Yeah, exactly. And so I understood, what the style, right? Like what's trendy, what's fashionable right now. And so we still have to adjust and do that now in our business. My kids right now, we're selling to the elementary school, booster clubs and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, well, what type of designs and colors and all the things that do my kids like to wear? Because what I think is cool is way different than what they think is cool. And so we kind of got to get that mix
At
all
least you got a
throughout.
built-in beta market, so you kind of have some like ready-made research.
Yeah, so it's perfect for that. But then, that's where we look at hiring like interns and different things right now. So we've got that perspective of different ages and demographics. And, it's not just me trying
I
to
can
think
see
like, oh,
sleepovers at your house where you're telling your kid, hey, invite 10 of your friends over and they come over and you're like, oh, hey, which shirt do you like? You like shirt A or shirt B? Which one do you like?
yeah.
I like shirt B. Here, you guys can have it. And you're like, all right, we'll go print some of those. So at what point did you realize that you're going to have to invest in equipment and a location, because I'm assuming at this point in time you were kind of going through wholesalers and kind of putting pieces together,
No,
right?
we never went through
No.
wholesalers. So we just started off right from the start in my parents' basement. I got a heat press. I was ordering in heat transfers, and that lasted about 4 months. And then after that, I was like, all right, I have to go learn how to screen print. So I flew down to Arizona, took a 3-day class to learn how to screen print. And we leased our first space, 2,000 square feet, ordered embroidery machines, screen printing equipment, everything, and just dove right in. So starting off with our equipment for funding, I was 22 at the time. So no bank was gonna, lend me money or anything else. So I brought on my mom as my business partner, and she had, past entrepreneurial experiences as being a business owner, some different small businesses, a hair salon, as I mentioned, and a few others. And so I brought her on as my business partner. We took out a home equity line of credit on their house and
Wow.
then basically a credit card to fund the startup of the equipment, the inventory, and all the supplies and stuff that we needed. And so at that point, I was like, okay, well, my parents' house is on the line. I've got no choice but to like make this
That's
thing
a little
work.
pressure.
Yeah. And I knew it was going to work. Like I just had this unshakable confidence from the start. And, but the first, 3 years, it was like, all right, I'm gonna work basically 6, 7 days a week. Um, I don't know, some days 18-hour days, whatever, some all-nighters just to
Were
get
you the only
orders.
one? You were doing all the pressing?
Yeah, so me, my mom, I'd grab some other siblings, friends, whatever, and whatever it took. So, we're printing, designing and doing customer service stuff during the day. We'd be printing at night. We'd be pulling all-nighters to meet deadlines, like whatever it took to make it happen, to grind it out, to kind of build that foundation of the customers to start off. And so the first couple of years were definitely a grind, but learned a lot in that time, learned some tenacity, some self-discipline, everything else, as a kid right out of college. But to me, like it didn't feel like work. To me, it felt like a game and it felt like it was, something fun I enjoyed doing.
Oh.
So I didn't mind, putting in the hours and everything else because like I'm like, what else would I be doing right now? So I always thought of it as like I'm building the foundation for my future. And the more work I put in now, like the better things are going to be farther down the road.
So what was the first, like revenue wise, what was the first couple of years like? Did you do okay or would you just kind of stay afloat? Like what did that look like?
Yeah, first year, I think we were at about 250,000 in
All right.
revenue.
That's not too shabby for the late 90s.
Yeah, and then we jumped up to let's see, we went to 250 to 400 to 800, and by the fourth year we hit 1 million in revenue.
Wow. So what did that year feel like when you broke the $1 million mark in revenue? Did you guys stop and
Um,
celebrate? Were you able to, or were you so busy you weren't able to really kind of appreciate getting there?
no, we were so busy we didn't even stop to appreciate it. I don't think it was until the year after when we hit like 1.3 that I was like, oh my gosh, we're over 1 million in revenue this year and last year too. I didn't even like take it all in. And so it was just like a moment that we didn't really pause. We were just kind of to the grind and making it happen.
Yeah. So this is a fantastic story. I love it because you just start this thing. It's fun. You're good at it. Now you're doing $1 million. At what point in your journey did your mindset start to shift about how you treated this business going from the operator doing the fun thing to, was there a moment where you realized like, oh wow, like I need to hire people and I need to start being more of like a CEO instead of like, there's sort of the shift of like it's your baby, it's your business, but then when you're hitting 1.3 million, like suddenly, you're getting way too busy for you to manage all of that on your own. So was there a moment where you kind of sat back and went, "Oh, this is actually a real business and we can do something really cool with this"?
No, there wasn't. Because like so basically for 20 years in a row, we've averaged like 20% growth
Oh,
single year.
20%
So
year after year after year after year for 20
yes,
years.
we've constantly been in this growth mode where um, I've never just sat back and wore the owner hat. I've been wearing multiple hats, really probably until the last couple of years where we've been, adding more people to the leadership team and things like that from a management level. But I mean, I'm still up until probably last year, I still get out on a press and I'd be printing t-shirts. So even though we got, 30 some employees, I'd be, whatever it takes, kind of all hands on deck mentality of if I've got to do some graphic design, I'll jump on and do some designs. If I've got to go back and catch some shirts or print some t-shirts, I'll do that. Like, so yeah, there was never kind of this moment of like switching from in the grind working to the CEO role. It's always been a like do whatever it takes to, make it happen because at all the different points from 1 million to 2 million to 3 to 4 to 5, every little step in there, we've always hit different kind of bottlenecks or inflection points in the business where we just had to fill those gaps and adjust as needed, and it was always a different area. So it might have been the graphic design department, it might have been somewhere in fulfillment or in production or purchasing or marketing or somewhere else. So it was like always different areas that during that growth, whether it was because of, hiring or, a lot of times as a small business, you hire somebody. The position isn't big enough. So let's just say accounting and HR, the company's not big enough for a full-time person for both positions. So you hire kind of someone that can handle both and they're wearing both of those hats at once. I like to say it's like, 50-50 on that. But then as you grow, one of them needs full-time attention and the other one still might be a part-time type thing. And that's kind of throughout the business, especially in the production and manufacturing side of stuff. So with printing the shirts, prepping the screens, fulfilling the orders, all that sort of thing. So we've always had people where they're wearing multiple hats in the building. And then once we realize like the demand is exceeding what they're able to do, and it's like, no, you now have to take off a hat and just focus on one hat, right now. That's kind of been that constant thing. And so when those things happen throughout the business, that's where I'm able to step in or someone else and, wear part of a hat for a little bit until we find somebody to fill that role.
So you said something that's really important that I've heard multiple times, which is, a lot of people are going, I want to get to $1 million, I want to get to $1 million, and you can get there, but what got you to 1 million isn't going to be what gets you to 5. And then, or even to 3. And then what got you to 3 isn't what getting you to 5. And so I think it's interesting that you said as you went along the way, like the bottlenecks that came up, but it was never the same bottleneck. It was always in a different thing where you're like, oh, we got this optimized. And they're like, oh, this thing over here is now. You're like, oh, now we got to go get this thing over here. And then you're like, yeah, we got it optimized. And it's like, oh no, now this one over here. Right. And it's all based on the revenue because of the demands on the business. So you started at a 2,000 square foot shop. Like what's your footprint now?
Now we're in 35,000 square feet.
And you
And so,
started with a handful of employees and now you've got 35,
yeah, now
36,
we're at 38.
38.
So yeah, we were in the 2,000 square feet for 6 years, and we bumped up to 7,000 square feet. We were there for 6 years, and then we went from 7,000 to 35,000, and now we've been there for 6 years, and we are getting pretty full in there, but we've got the option to expand right now, and yeah, it's like we just keep hitting those levels and keep stepping it up every
So when
six
you went from
years.
7 to 35, were you going in there going like, what are we ever going to do with all this space?
Yeah, basically we thought like we thought that we were going to have to lease out part of the building. But once we got in there, we quickly realized, like, with the extra space, we're able to make the workflow a lot more efficient. We're able to expand our sales, to keep up with the capacity that we had. So, it's kind of like the fishbowl effect. You can only grow as big as, the surroundings that you're in. So I think by doing that big of a jump, instead of going from like 7 up to 12 or 15,000, going to 35,000 really just gave us that kind of confidence and that expansion of like, all right, we've got the capacity, we've got the room. Now let's start, filling it. And after that, that's when we hit the Inc. 5000 for fastest growing companies in the US
Wow,
3 years in a row.
that's
So that's
remarkable.
2018, 2019, 2020.
Wow. So at what point did your mom retire and stop being your business partner, or is she still your business partner
She's still
today?
there.
Yeah.
She's still my business partner.
So your parents are like, that was an investment that turned out okay.
Yeah, and it's great. Like I said, all throughout the journey, especially in the early years, the other siblings and stuff coming in, helping out at different times, and now it's nieces and nephews and stuff coming in and being part of it.
Oh, that's fantastic. So I want to talk about something I think is really important because some businesses go through this and you learn firsthand how kind of hard this is to pivot. But you started as Envision and had some challenges with that. And then eventually you're like, this isn't working. We need to be something else. And so you came up with the idea of 1-800 t-shirts. And so let's talk a little bit about the challenges you faced of once you acquired 1-800 t-shirts of having to go from what at that point in time you were a 15, 16-year-old company with an established name and what it took for you to kind of pivot into something that was going to allow you to be, the bigger growth that you guys have envisioned for yourself.
Yeah, I think so we established the name Envision from the start. And when we started, it was Envision Sports Designs. And we did a lot of sports teams and stuff like that. And then as we kind of started growing, I was like, well, we're more than just sports teams. And so we evolved from Envision Sports Designs to Envision Screen Printing and Embroidery. And then that was too long. So then we went from the Envision Screen Printing and Embroidery to Envision Tees. So there was this evolution of Envision, you know, throughout kind of, the time of our growth and everything else. And then we always had this thing with trying to spell it out on the phone. People didn't know if Envision started with an E or with an I. And so every time we told someone we had to spell it out, people would email the wrong, address. And so we'd get email kickbacks and people calling, asking about that. It's just really hard, even for our customers, to refer us to other people and for them to remember the name. And so I'd read this book, and he was talking about, it was I think it was 1-800 limos or something like that. And I was like, you know what? I need 1-800 t-shirts because it's super easy to spell. It's very easy to remember. And it's got like a bigger brand presence than Envisioned as well. So I reached out, we acquired the business that had the phone number and domain and everything else, and rebranded from, Envision to 1-800 t-shirts. And it was a hard thing to do because like mentally, emotionally, you think like, oh, this is like the business that you started and here's the name. But the more I looked at it and thought about it, like I would look at, basically Fortune 500 companies that have rebranded their name. And I'm like, well, if giant billion-dollar companies can rebrand their name, like we're a pretty small business. We can rebrand and it's going to be okay. We've got, only a couple thousand clients. And it's like, all right, as long as those couple thousand know what our name is and who we are, and they have a relationship with me and our sales reps and stuff like that, not the name necessarily. It's not really that hard to, rebrand from there. I think most of the time when people talk about rebranding, it's probably just the junk stuck in their head that is harder to overcome than the actual perception from the customer standpoint or a marketing or sales standpoint from the public. So that rebrand, went great. We still have, local customers, our longtime, friends and family stuff still refer to us as Envision, which is fine. But from a national perspective, it's 1-800 T-shirts. Having the 1-800 T-shirts brand also lends a lot of credibility and authority. Calling clients or prospects, it's instantly like, well, it's not Joe's, print shop working out of a garage. If
Yeah,
you
you
have
went
the phone number
from a very
1-800
local
T-shirts,
to yeah, because you've got 1-800 flowers, 1-800
yeah,
chocolates, right? So you just
like
immediately
you've got to be legit, right?
yeah, well, because of the fact that like 1-800 flowers and 1-800 chocolates and all those have spent tens of millions of dollars branding that, there is the XYZ now is and especially when you've got the domain that does now say, oh, this is a big national company.
Yeah.
So from where I know you guys are trying to go with your company, long term, that made a lot of sense for what you guys are going to be able to do for growth. But like you said, you've got 2,000 clients and your SEO and all your websites and all that, all that stuff that has to sort of slowly move over to it. But yeah, it's a great brand. So where does your capital and your private equity firm when did that start to kind of percolate into your brain and when did that sort of come online?
Yeah, so that started about 10 years ago when we were expanding and looking to buy, basically buy the real estate instead of and rent, from ourselves instead of somebody else. Because I knew long term, I wanted to have some real estate working in the background to build passive income. I also want to, look for things that as we continue to grow the business, we'd have some things that we could use for, writing off taxes and things like that. And so that's when we started kind of the real estate side of the business. And, that was our first commercial property. And what I wanted was real estate that was very hands off so I could focus on the t-shirt business as much as possible. So we discovered triple net lease commercial real estate, which typically a lot of people don't know about because you never see these properties listed, with a sign in the front yard essentially, or they're not listed with a local real estate agent or anything like that. And these types of properties are commercial properties. It could be big warehouses, it could be fast food restaurants, strip centers, things like that. So like some of our tenants are Starbucks, Arby's, Applebee's, Midas
Wow.
Muffler, Staples, all big brand names. And what triple net, when I say triple net lease, what triple net means is those tenants take care of the property taxes, the insurance, and all the maintenance. So for most of those properties, we don't even have keys to the building. We don't have to go there. We don't have to fix anything. Those tenants are paying us rent, every month on the first of the month, and then we're paying the bank, what the mortgage is. And and then taking the profit, in
Wow.
between that. So very passive form of investing in real estate and growing, like I said, that kind of net worth and that nest egg in the background while operating, the main company.
That's something I would have never thought of with the real estate is when you're going with franchisees, like the franchises themselves are responsible for the maintenance of the building. What an amazing like headache to eliminate as a property
Yeah.
owner where yeah, and did you just kind of stumble into that or were you already aware of that type of lease?
No, I was not aware of it. There was another investor in town who kind of made me aware of it. He was doing a lot of Dollar Generals and, some other properties like that. And then a banker was telling me about it. And that was really, we started off with a fourplex and I understood really quickly, like that was not what I wanted to do, dealing with tenants that were trashing the place and not paying rent and just all the other headaches that come with owning apartments. And it really just didn't fit our lifestyle or, being able to run and grow the business. So that's where we end up with that passive side with Round Capital. And then in 2021, you know, I was like, I've got to let other owners know about this as well. So then we started bringing on investors and partnering with other business owners basically to keep growing that portfolio and doing the same thing to be able to give them some passive income, to be able to help them offset some taxes and, grow some wealth in the background while they're still operating their businesses.
Wow. That's fantastic. All right. Well, we've been on here quite a bit, so I want to respect your time. But as a business owner, what advice would you have to other business owners, maybe like the ones that are coming to me that are like, kind of stuck in the $500,000 to $1 million revenue phase? What advice would you give somebody in that kind of level of revenue?
I think where I'm at now, and with kids and everything else, and doing this for 20 years, I think it's optimizing that business for understanding like what is the end goal in mind. Are you optimizing for lifestyle business that you want to be able to, pay yourself, take the proceeds and stuff with it from every year and use it to basically fuel your lifestyle, whether that's traveling or whatever you're passionate about, and going that way? Or are you creating something that you want to scale up and exit and sell at a bigger multiple? Because there's two different ways to operate that. Whether you're building a lifestyle business that's just, you don't want to work for someone else, you want to work for yourself and you enjoy and you're passionate about what you're doing, versus if you're trying to scale something up for an exit and have this big liquidity event at some point in time. So understanding both of those things about the business, and then how that fits with where your lifestyle is, like how much time do you want to spend in it, what do you want to do in it as well, like do you want to be the operator, do you want to be the visionary part of it? So I think understanding that and starting with the end in mind, and then just kind of building it backwards from there.
Yeah, that's great advice. Final two questions. The first one is, what's your most popular shirt?
Most popular shirt is it's a tri-blend t-shirt, super soft. So, there's a couple different brands that have the tri-blend style, but if you just think of your favorite t-shirt that's like super soft, it feels like it's been washed 100 times. That is my favorite style. I just like that real soft, kind of older, well-worn feel to it. Definitely the way to go.
So if somebody wants their own t-shirt, their t-shirts.com.
Yeah. We do t-shirts for a lot of different things, whether it's an event, a nonprofit, businesses,
Teams, we got that covered.
organizations. Yep.
Awesome. Tom, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Travis.